And in chapter 6, Getting Strategy Right, you talk about how when organizations find themselves in severe distress, be it from falling sales or bad reputation, you talk about the type of corrective course of action that they should take. Can you talk a little bit about what that is,
Sure.
how they should do it?
Yeah, and the question here is, what happens when you realize that your strategy is broken? And it shouldn't be too hard to sort of see the signs that you have a broken strategy, and it's disastrous declines in sales, horrific losses, et cetera, et cetera. And what I found sort of surprisingly is that despite sort of no questions that you're in trouble, how difficult is it for a lot of companies to just honestly recognize that we're headed to extinction in the extreme. Just starting point, make sure you recognize just how dire things are, because that's important for the second issue, which is therefore be willing to undertake a transformational change. If you're in such severe distress that bankruptcy kind of is not only unlikely but is probable, you're not going to fix that with little tweaks around the edges of your business. You have to take dramatic changes, and often the third thing would be that requires you to not only accept but purposefully shrink to grow. That is, I'm going to get rid of a lot of the really ailing parts of my business, rebuild around a sustainable core, shrink to grow. And then when you finally got to a defensible core, begin that process of continuous innovation, meaningful differentiation, and build from there. So that's, again, it sounds simple to do, but how few companies are able and willing to do it on their own.
Can you give us an example of a company who was able to turn around?
Well, the greatest turnaround of all times is undoubtedly Apple. So Steve Jobs returns to Apple in 1997, having been fired by his board 12 years earlier, and re-inherits a company that has lost $1 billion the prior year, has very little cash, and it's shrinking rapidly. And the first thing he does is said, we are going to get rid of every product in our portfolio that doesn't deliver demonstrably superior service. So they had a game console called Pippin, they had a camera called QuickTime, they had a disastrous tablet called the Newton, they had dozens of software packages. Out the door, overnight, gone. 3,000 employees, unfortunately, went in the process. And then he said, from now on, we're going to do fewer things better. 4 years later, the iPod came out, then the iPhone. So there, and he went from the $3 billion headed towards zero to building a company which is valued more than $600 billion.